When you have Netanyahu telling you that not only is there no starvation, there's no plan for it, that is a flat out 100% intentional lie. It's not a distortion. It's not a, reading between the lines. It's not a kind of partial truth here. No, that is full on lie, and we are buying it. We are buying it, and we are allowing him to continue to destroy a population, millions of people. They're methodically destroying this population just inch by inch as they continue more down, and we're enabling it, as you said, as you saw Colonel Aguilar there say. Okay, now that you understand that 3 of these places are right by the food distribution centers, now he's going to explain to you and show you with some of his own video that he shot exactly what that translates into on the ground.
You said you saw no threat at all. You didn't see Palestinians with weapons. You didn't feel threatened. It doesn't, I'm sure there's a threat there, but you didn't experience it. But you said that there was shooting. Who was shooting at what and why?
The way, so to walk everyone through kind of how a distribution site works in terms of like, how are people being shot at? How does this happen? So early in the morning, the Palestinians, because mind you, the Palestinians, to get to the south, they cannot drive. They have to walk one way from where they live because they have to go through the established military corridors, just one way to get to where they have to get to. They have to walk, so they can't just walk straight down to the site. They have to go west to the coastal corridor, down the coastal corridor, into the Marag corridor, down to the sites. So they're walking anywhere from 8 to 12 kilometers one way to get to the site. So when they queue up in the morning at the intersection of the Marag corridor and the coastal road, and the queuing gets into to the magnitude of thousands, the IDF hold them there with tanks in place. When the UG Solutions personnel call on the radio to the IDF to say the site is ready, the crowd is released in a massive tidal wave of people. It's dehumanizing. And rushing towards the site because they're starving. As they're coming to the site, the IDF shoot at them. Machine guns, mortars, tank rounds, artillery. I have all of this on video.
Within a matter of minutes, 2 minutes, 15 seconds, hundreds of Palestinians are already on the site.
Like, this is not like, it's so compelling when you see it. And I'm like, because I watched it, and as I'm watching it and being there, and you hear early morning hours, pre-dawn, sunrise over the Mediterranean, thousands of Palestinians rushing down to the site. And over their heads, you just see tracer bullets flying. Tracers, tank rounds, artillery rounds. And they do that to keep the Palestinians on the right path. My suggestion from the very beginning was like, have we tried a sign? Put a sign out there? Like, I don't know, like put a sign in the road that says go this way instead of shooting a Markava tank round. Like, I think that would be a great way to kind of start. Nope. Cost too much. We're not going to do it. Oh, okay. That's a telling proposition. So as they're coming to the site and they're getting shot at, it's dark. The Israeli forces in the south are reserve conscripts. They're not the IDF that are in the elite active army unit. They're conscript reservists. They don't train. They don't get a lot of training. Rarely do they get to shoot their weapons. And they don't have night vision capability. So they're shooting into the dark at thousands of people. To say that when the sun rises and bodies are strewn along the road, and the IDF say, oh, we didn't do that. Really? Well, then, how did that happen then? Like, you did do that.
And one of the other things that the Israeli official statements say when these things happen on a daily basis, where the people are killed going into the food distribution center, the claim is almost always that Well, we felt threatened, that we fired warning shots and they didn't listen. If you've seen any of these other videos, you see there's nowhere for you to go. It's a corridor. It's blocked off either by barriers or concrete concrete barriers or barbed wire. There's nowhere that they can get off of. So there's no truth to that. Palestinians, think about this. You heard him say there, nobody has a gun. Nobody's allowed to have weapons in there. You saw all the men. They had sacks. They wanted to get food to put it into it. Are you going to try and tell me that the Israeli Defense Forces, who have Merkava tanks, automatic weapons, their machine guns that they have, their rifles, that guys with bags are going to suddenly swarm the guys who have all the tanks and the guns and the artillery and the mortars? I mean, that doesn't pass any kind of common sense. And yet, when they make those claims, it's accepted at face value. People just in the West will read that, and the reporters who report on it will just record what's written down there. They won't say what I just told you. That doesn't make any sense at all because they don't have weapons. And are you claiming, IDF, that men with bags are storming your security forces such that it puts them at risk? And again, do not miss that part that Tony said a minute ago. They placed these food distribution points into the area where the IDF is conducting offensive operations, not somewhere way far away from it where the Israelis wouldn't even be put at risk. No, they did it right where they have the offensive operations going on. So to then claim that when there's these corridors that are very tightly controlled, that the Palestinians apparently can't, or at least with great difficulty, go off, they're shooting them. And he says, when the sun comes up, then you see these bodies every day. It just keeps on happening. Look on the headlines of any of the Middle Eastern English language broadcasters. They'll publish something nearly every day of how many Palestinians were killed going to the food aid. It is torture. It is mental torment to know that if you don't get food, you're going to die of starvation. If you go to try to get food for yourself and your family, you risk being shot to death. I mean, it is beyond incredible. It's beyond crazy that is the conditions that are being created by policies put into place. And again, I don't care if anybody's insulted or their feelings are hurt by this, because I understand so many in America have this really good view of Israel for their whole lives. They've always been the island of stability in the middle of the chaotic Middle East, the democracy, the oasis of goodness, etc. All those kinds of things. And you can't have gone your whole life and believe that, and then to believe that same group, that same democracy, could now be creating such heinous activities. And yet here you are faced with it. If you're not going to take my word for it, if you're not going to believe your own eyes, then believe Tony Aguilar, who has no axe to grind against Israel. He went over there because he wanted to help. He wanted to be part of the solution, and was so shocked and upset at what he saw and of our movement that he felt he could not stay silent. I certainly can relate to that. But that's what you have to come to your mind. Are you going to continue to blind yourself and just stop up your fingers to any of the evidence that's shown? Again, this is evidence. This is not just opinion. This is physical evidence provided with video right there that he took, and his on the ground retaliation or recitation of what actually happened. And in fact, speaking of that issue on the starvation, that's where we started this. Benjamin Netanyahu said there is no starvation. We certainly don't have a policy for it. It's a bald-faced lie. That's what he said here. What does Tony Aguilar say on that topic?
I don't know if I could technically call it a famine because I don't know what those rules are, but I would call it starvation. So and I'm glad that the president of the United States came out last week, or yesterday, on Politico and other outlets and said that he acknowledges and recognizes the starvation in Gaza. Thank you, Mr. President. That is exactly what's going on. The narrative of there's no starvation and there's no hunger going on in Gaza, that is negligent. That is shameful that anybody would say that. Not only is it evident to the world, I've seen it. So if you don't trust doctors and lawyers and aid workers and NGOs and Europeans and Westerners and Middle Easterners and all these people all over the world, Asians, everybody that's been in there that has seen this problem set. If you don't believe them, you can believe me.
And that's what you're going to be left with. Are you going to believe a guy who wanted to help out, who has 12 combat deployments under his belt, a full military career, special operations, has been around, seen it all, took his own life into his hands to potentially go and help other people who were in great need, and then comes back and reports it? Somebody who's very much pro-American is definitely not going to just say negative things about his country when he just retired from having served a whole lifetime, adult lifetime, in defense and service to our country, and putting his life on the line quite a bit in these combat deployments. Now, I know there's so many things out there. I've seen some of them roll through in the description already here in the commentary. A lot of people are listening to what's being said. Oh, there's no starvation going on. Like they're just people that were, it's not true. Yeah, lots of people walking around, but, I don't see skin and bones on all these people, so they're not starving. Because everyone you see isn't starving doesn't mean that there's not going on, or that there are plenty of others are, because there's plenty of evidence of that too. So you can see somebody shows a picture of a strong guy and say, yep, there's no starving. And then you ignore all the other huge evidence to the contrary that says that there is. Or you can believe the likes of Ambassador Huckabee, who said this.
When we went to Gaza, I think there were a couple of big takeaways for both of us. One was that the GHF program, despite all of the criticism against it, most of it coming from the UN and from Hamas, interestingly, was unfounded. They're efficiently serving meals. They've already served over 100 million meals. That was one of the big revelations. But the second one, and this is an important one, is how inefficient the UN process is. Much of their food gets looted and stolen, and once it's stolen, then it's hijacked into contraband that the Hamas soldiers turn around and sell at ridiculously high prices. One of the things we heard from Gazans that we spoke to was their hope that Hamas can get out of there, can be done with. They're sick of it. And they know that their suffering is not being caused by Israel, despite what you hear on the international media. They're the ones who are telling us that their suffering is caused by Hamas.
You know what? One of the things, anyway, that really disgusts me about this kind of thing, and he's been making a number of these comments, is the virtual lack of concern about the millions of human beings that are on the receiving end of that. All he wants to do is regurgitate the talking points, the official talking points of the Israeli government, and somehow he feels like that's what he's supposed to do as U.S. ambassador, and just minimizes any of the reports of anything going on to the Gaza people. You will look at here. So I know I hear people say, look, well, this is not like Auschwitz. You don't see skin and bones everywhere. It hasn't gotten to that point yet. Not on mass starvation. But there is tremendous malnutrition going on, especially among the children. I think 1 in 5 children are suffering severe malnutrition, which means they probably, a great portion of those will never recover. If the embargo is lifted tomorrow and the food starts going in at the normal pace, and that the war comes to an end and all that kind of stuff, they will never recover. A great many of them won't. The damage done is unbelievable. And that's just that particular aspect of it. You also have all the issues that are related to this with the destruction of the city itself. That was one of the things that Tony mentioned at the outset. This totality thing is all controlled by the Israeli side. There is no country on the planet that would ever be allowed to do to a captured population what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians, and the world would not rise up against it. And that is the shame of our generation here, that we haven't. We in the United States, as Tony mentioned, we're enabling it. We're diplomatically providing cover, like Ambassador Huckabee just did. We're physically providing the means for the destruction to go on a daily basis. Without our tank rounds, without our artillery rounds, without the machine gun bullets, the missiles that they fire from their aircraft, this would not be able to go on. So we are physically and materially engaged in facilitating this. And there's all kinds of people around the world. I mean, you have the what is it, Canada and in France and in the UK have now said that, they're so repulsed by all this that they're going to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly come September. Those are words, folks. No action. And a lot of these Arab regimes and others in the region that they say all these things that they're against, but nobody is willing to take any action. This will cumulatively be a shame for all of us. There will be people in the future that are just going to look back and say, what in the hell was wrong with that generation? You can put a lot of blame you can put most of the blame on Israel and a lot of blame on the United States, but nobody gets out of this because nobody with power is willing to use any of it. You have some people like Tony Aguilar who's willing to put his career and reputation on the line to say what because he's coming under a lot of heat for this. Of course, anyone who says anything about the truth is going to come under heat because that's not the popular narrative that the governments in Israel and Washington want to have put out there. But you can only hide the truth so long. It is out there. This is happening, and this will be a stain on our reputation along because now this whole thing about the city on a hill that we used to be, the shining light and the torch of Lady Liberty and all that, that's done, folks. We have destroyed that. I mean, it's past tense now. It's already too late. It would take generations of doing it the right way to have a chance to recover that. But we can't even have that possibility until we first stop doing the bad stuff to stop the destruction of our own reputation. We can no longer tell somebody, don't do these immoral things. We can no longer tell some other country, don't abuse this population. They'll laugh at us. They'll mock us. And then I bet you they'll use the same tactics we do. They'll just say, oh, we're not doing that. No, that's the enemy. Fill in the blank, whoever the enemy will happen to be in that case. It's the enemy. We're not doing that. And they may even smirk in the camera, knowing that we're watching it and that they're repeating our own words back to us. So it also now it makes it easier for others all over the world, other powers, other dictators, other just wicked actors to act on some of their worst impulses. Because now they're not even restrained by what some others may say or the pressure that may come because they see that we are doing it on a grotesque level. This is going to harm us. We're not going to get out of this without stains. And it's going to be really, really hard to even try to get that stuff out there. And I pray to God on a daily basis, literally, not figuratively, that the suffering of these people who are utterly powerless to do anything about it, and they get no help from anyone in the world. I pray that somehow, somewhere, some nations, hopefully our friends, will find some courage, and if I can just say it, find the balls to stand up finally and do the right thing. Somebody who has some power to do something about it will take that action, because that's the only thing that's going to end this destruction. Otherwise, Israel will probably eventually succeed in either getting these people expelled or they'll just start dying in large numbers. It's not going to be 60,000 or whatever the official number is over nearly 2 years. It could start to be in the thousands every week if this continues on. It's just math. You can't have that little amount of food for that many people with such a difficult distribution system, and they're not eventually turn into large-scale deaths. We're just going to have to wait and see how that's going to work out. But you know the truth now, and nobody's going to be able to hide from the truth in the future. It's out there right now. We're promoting it here. Tony Aguilar did there. Other channels are as well. The truth is out there, and we'll never be able to hide from it, or the shame who did nothing and stayed silent.